As a collage artist, I'm always looking for new materials to work with. And if you're anything like me, yeah, I live in a house that has plenty of stuff. I have magazines that have stacked up from, well, years ago. And so I never throw these things away because I'm always thinking they might come in handy. And today's project is going to allow us to do something with old magazines to create some really fun abstract art. This week on Mixed Media Masters. Hello makers and welcome to the studio. If this is your first time visiting us, then welcome. Good to have you here. By the way, we drop a new video every single week, so if you want to know what's going on, you can hit that subscribe button and we will alert you when a new video drops. And we're here to help you unleash your inner artist. Now, if you live in a house like mine, we end up with things that kind of stack up quite literally of old magazines or newspapers. And every so often I think, all right, I want to keep these because they might come in handy, but there's a fine line between saving things because you want to use them for future art and being a hoarder. So we want to make sure we know where that line is, don't we? And so one of the things that we want to be able to do with a magazine like this is go through it and find blocks of color that might be worthwhile. Now, I don't want to give up too much of the different copywritten information in here, but for example, we can see we have some printed black in here, and I might say that'd be a really good thing to grab. I have some green in this chart here that I might want to grab, and here's some yellow colors and things like that. Basically, I like to go through these magazines, and I like to find a way to build a palette from the different things that have been printed. Now, I want to personally stay away from anything that is copyrighted. And by the way, when we talk about reusing content like magazines and newspapers, there is what is known as fair use. And fair use means that I am taking these materials and creating a absolutely brand new thing out of them, as opposed to, hey, I saw your article and I copied it and I republished it and I said it's mine, right? You have to walk a fine line. Fair use is fairly flexible. And if I'm going through here and just pulling pieces of color out of an article and it's not pulling the actual information in, it's not going to be a problem for you, okay? So what I will generally do is I will sit down with a pair of scissors and probably something on the television, because this is one of those tasks that you can just sit there and mindlessly work on for hours and use it to build up a palette of different pieces of paper, different colors, so you finally have something to work with. So let's just jump to that part because the cutting out part takes a while, and I'll show you what the results are.
3 days later.
Okay, so a lot of cutting that goes on, and when I'm done, I have these manila envelopes that I've been using to just put different colors into. In a lot of ways, I want to be able to pull together my palette, and so I have an envelope here that has a lot of yellows and a lot of things that kind of bend over from reds and pinks to yellows, and some things that are just off-white. Some oranges in here as well, as you can see. So there's a lot of things, and you can see I've gone through these magazines and I've cut out a lot of different possibilities that we can work with, right? I like to do that for different colors. I have an envelope here that's got a combination of pinks and reds as well, so I can work with those. I have one for, in this case, these are different various blue backgrounds, but a lot of these are neutrals. I have an envelope that's a lot of neutrals that I like to work with as background colors. I have an envelope for blues. I have an envelope for greens, and I think I have some purples and some reds in here. So depending on what I'm working on, I don't generally dump them all out like this because it's not the most easiest to organize. But I start to think about how can I build out a framework of what I want to be able to create. And now in the project I want to work on today, it's going to be a project that is based on really just an abstract of different colors. I'm going to start usually with more of a neutral background style and then start to layer different things in until the art tells me where to go and when to stop, basically. So in order to get this done, let me just actually get these guys back in their envelope. We have more yellow than we're going to need in one place. And after cutting out all these pieces, you really do feel compelled to go make something because you need to free up space to create more pieces of paper. There we are. So there's yellows and oranges, and we'll definitely dig into some of those as we go. I'll keep a couple of these out. Now, as I often do, I'm going to be using this piece of 18 by 24 inch heavy duty watercolor paper from Strathmore. I love working on with this. It has a little bit of a texture, but when I'm gluing down, it's a nice surface to glue down to. It's a heavy, sturdy piece so that if it gets a little damp, it won't warp out of shape too badly. And it really just gives me an opportunity to have that thing I love. I love the blank sheet of paper because it represents so much possibility. And in this context, I want to create an abstract art piece that's really going to be a collage of these different paper pieces. So for example, if I take a piece like this and I drop it in here, I can do that. Now, I will note a few things, by the way, when you're working with magazine cutouts, is in this particular case, I can actually see the printing on the back side. And that's not optimal for what I want to be able to do. If I were to take a piece like this one, for example, it's less obvious that there's printing on the back. And as we start layering the stuff up, you won't really see it. And what I'll generally do is I'll come in here and I'll grab different colors and I'll start saying, all right, is there kind of a framework, by the way? Do I want to have something where I have a natural white border built in and I kind of work around that? And the answer may be yes, or I might want to work all the way up to the edge of the paper and we'll worry about it later. But in this context, generally what I'll do is I'll go and I'll find some neutral colors that I can work. Let me go back to find my neutral color envelope. And this just allows me to have a kind of a background of different types of colors in here that will help cover up the red, but not necessarily add too much distinction to it, if that makes sense. All right, I'm looking, again, for things that are fairly neutral, and I can come in here and I can say, all right, let's drop these pieces in here like this. You're already seeing things coming together a little bit. And I do have some straight lines in here, which makes it kind of fun. Maybe I'll put this up here in this corner. And maybe I will just leave a little bit of a border around here. And, oops, is that going to be, there you go. It got something on it, so maybe that's not a good piece. I've got some white here. Let's see, I have another piece of this gray. There we go. And that's another piece of the gray. And so maybe we go up there like that. So I have a margin here on the left-hand side that I might work with here. And let's see what else we have in here. Got some light blue. This will probably work nicely for what we want to be able to do. Do I want this red? Maybe we'll come back to that. But how about something like this? Running on the right-hand side. And I have another kind of a dusky rose sort of color that might work in here. And there's another light powder blue kind of thing. Again, what you end up doing is what you end up doing. What I really simply want to be able to do is create a framework that I can start working within. And again, the neutral colors work for me here because one of the things that I intend to do is really cover them up with brighter colors. I want to, in essence, obscure as much of the white as I can. That's my initial objective. And so by using these pieces that allow me, in essence, to create a framework here, I can do just that, right? So by simply just grabbing these pieces, which automatically have edges, and you know what, I'm going to put this down here like that because I can. This gives me a framework to think, all right, how do I fill in the middle parts here as well? And again, I don't want to have anything that's kind of giving away what the original content was. Let's get some blues out of here. Let's do some blue themes here, and I got just a lovely teal here. And so again, if I start coming in here and layering in pieces like this, it's going to give me these big splotches of color. And by the way, if I have something here that's not really working for me the way it currently is, there's nothing to prevent me from saying, here, let's just cut that piece. And I can say, let's fit this guy in somehow. All right, so I can put that in here right like that. All right. Now what I'm really trying to do here is I'm trying to create a balance of the different colors, the different shapes, and how they all work together with my background paper. And as we've talked about many, many times on this channel, there is no right answer. What I'm going to do, just because I've had some experience with laying these things out, is I want to start with more neutral colors in the background. And as I bring colors forward, I want to make them a little bit brighter and a little bit brighter. And then eventually when I have little sections like this white section here, let's say, that I need to color up, I might say, you know what, a splotch of this magenta would really pop that. I don't want this to be the dominant color. I want this to be really the accent colors and the marks that we go in. All right. So I'm going to just kind of do a little bit of just spitballing here, really. There's absolutely no right way to do this. But now if I come in here with something like that, and here's another piece, and again, I'm going to bounce it off maybe down here, and this goes really well with this shape and color. Maybe I'll just drop it on top a little bit. There we go. And then we're going to overlap. And again, I'm building things out like this, and I'm going to just try to do what I can to fill in as much of the white space with the colors that I have. And I'm going to try to make an interesting relationship between them. Now, I can come in here and I can dry fit everything together as needed. In the sake of just making it a little bit easier for myself in the future, I think I'm going to actually start pasting things down so I have at least a foundation. And I've dry fit the framework. I think it works just fine. And then once I have that in place, it's going to be a lot easier for me to kind of drop new pieces in. So let's take care of that. I'm going to reach for my trusty glue stick. I'm using the Amazon Basics. I buy these things in bulk. They're about 26 cents each. So it's not going to break the bank. Makes it very easy to use them. And let me just come in here, and again, let me just get some stuff kind of established and glued down. Now, as I often like to do when I'm working with anything, and again, I have limited real estate here to work with, I like to have a gluing sheet. I just use this standard printer paper, just copier paper, and have a couple sheets on hand. And what this allows me to do is just have a place where I can glue down where I don't get glue or get minimal glue, hopefully, on the piece I'm actually working on. So let's do that with this corner here. This is kind of an establishing corner. And because this paper is relatively thin, we don't need to go crazy on the glue and make it all wet, but I want to make sure I get the edges of it. So let's do that. And again, let's get some glue in here and here, and we'll make that happen. All right, it's starting to curl up already, but yeah, bound to happen. But what I can do now is let me get this corner piece again back kind of where I want to establish my edges for the piece. And this is going to be a very important thing for me to do. And again, using these kind of already pre-cut flat edges will allow me to do just that. I'm also going to use a tool that you've probably seen me use before in the past, which is this platen roller. It's basically for putting ink on printable surfaces, and I like to use it as a way to firmly press down the things that I am gluing so they don't come back up again. There we are. So that will work there. And let's just work up the left-hand side here. Again, let me just come in here and get some glue on this piece. Here we go. And let's just make sure this guy will stick down firmly. Okay, there we go, and I'm going to drop it. Again, this is going to be my left-hand margin. So you're going to go right in here like that. Actually, I'm just off by just a tiny little bit. I can see the margins aren't as equal as I want them to be. Okay, good. That will work better. Let's get this rolled. Firmly nailed down, and let's finish this thing up at the top corner here. Move these guys over a little bit, and this is going to be the top of the left-hand side. Beautiful. Okay, and again, a little bit of overlap here is kind of fun, and it gives me some flexibility in kind of figuring out how far down from the top I want to come as well. There it is. All right, so we're started there. That's good. Let's do the same thing here on the right-hand side. We'll work up the sides, and then we'll figure out the tops and bottoms here as well. Let's get my glue sheet up, I should say. And pow. And here we go. We have about 1.5 inches over there, maybe. Yeah, it's about 1.5 inches. It's not quite 2 inches. So similar over here, about the same. Bring it up to the bottom about 2 inches. And let's get this in here. And again, roll that guy. Yeah, that's not going anywhere. That is going to stay put. Okay. Let's see. What else do we want to be able to do here? That's coming in from the side. How about, let's bring that blue up. That's kind of cool. That works really nicely. All right. We have a nice blue color. It's gonna, again, grab your eye on the side here, which is kind of nice. Now, by the way, one of the things that you might think about when you're building anything is, you know, how do things overlap? Do I want this blue piece to be on top of the other blue piece? If that's the case, you know what? Make sure you don't glue it all the way down. Leave this top part up so I can tuck this piece under it. That's going to be my next piece, so I'll get there before the glue gets too firm. And get some more glue out here. Whoops. And again, sometimes this paper is really thin, so when it starts getting wet, it curls up really fast. And yeah, you gotta work it. You gotta work it hard. All right, let's get in here. And again, the theory anyway is to get under this piece here with the other blue. How are we doing? And I think right about there. And beautiful, beautiful. And this will go right there like that. It happened. We made it happen. All right, nice. All right, I'm going to come down here, and again, I had this orange piece that I like kind of bridging this, so I'm going to put that in. That's not going anywhere. That's enough glue to keep it happy forever. And let's just bring that. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. All right, at the top, what do we have? I have this this teal piece. Again, you know, I probably say this every single time, but there are people like, "Am I doing it right?" Yeah, you're doing it right. If you're gluing pieces of paper onto another piece of paper, you're in the right place. Is there any right way to do any of this? Absolutely not. And what I have discovered over time is that when you're building something, you start with kind of a general idea, right? There's like, hey, what happens if I do this? And I think a lot of the stuff that I create is almost like going to an art lab and saying, I have a thought, will this work, right? Going to experiment. We have a hypothesis, and we're going to try to prove it. That's the goal anyway. And there are no wrong answers. So even easier. There are better answers. I will tell you, there's no such thing as everything is great no matter what you do. The weird thing about most artwork is that there are things you can look at, even the stuff you create, especially the stuff you create, you can say, oh, that just didn't work. But oftentimes I find it's very hard, even as the person who did the creating, to explain why it didn't work. You just know, like, that's not, yeah, that just didn't do it, whatever it is. But so far, no, I don't have that complaint here. I don't have that complaint. All right, let me, you know what? I'm going to just use this blue going across right there. And that will give us our full frame. And I find this just makes it easier to start focusing on filling in the frame. So, no problem. All right, and you go right, go like that. I'm going to angle it up just a little bit. I don't know. Hopefully that won't bother it because this is a little tall over here. But there we go. There we go. We have created a framework that we can now start to fill in. I'll get a new gluing sheet here. And like I said, my objective when I'm working here is really just to get rid of the white. That's what I'm trying to do. And I'm going to use some neutral colors to fill in some of the big gaps. And then we'll start getting into brighter colors and more pronounced as we get there. So this one here is a kind of a mocha. Definitely one of our neutral colors. And where do you want to go? I'm going to I'm going to drop you right about there. How about that? Maybe that blends in nicely. We'll get some color on top of that. Don't worry about that. Okay, what else do we have here from a fairly neutral standpoint? I have this this powder blue one. Okay. Make sure you get the edges. Those are the most important parts of our glue up here. Let's just put you right there. All right. So again, we're covering up blue. We're covering up white, I should say. We're covering up the basics here, and I'll start dropping a few fun shapes and colors into play here. Okay, and oops, I guess we're at the end of our glue stick. And let's see what we can do here. Again, if I'm coming across like this, that may work. And let's roll that. Oop, got some glue on things. Again, one of your best friends whenever you're doing any kind of work is paper towels. Yeah, that's right. Now this glue is going to dry transparent, and this stuff here will actually be buried, so it's not a big deal. But sometimes you just want to clean up while you go. All right, nice. Let's find some other colors to work with here. Again, I'm going to kind of go into my bins over here. Let's see if we can find some. Oh, you know what? There's a green. That's a nice color to work with. And what else do we have here? By the way, I find black can be really helpful, but again, when you put black on anything, the eye gets drawn straight to it. So oftentimes it can be a very dominant color. And, dig through my neutrals a little bit more. Get some whites, get some blacks, get some beiges. Let's get out. This piece will definitely find our way in. We have a gray one here. Here's a gray one. By the way, you'll notice also with something like this is you can create a rag edge. All right, just depending on how it gets torn out, and it just gives a completely different look and feel to it. And you know, if you're working with a piece like this, say, you know, that green looks good, but wouldn't it look better if I just tore the edge? Go for it. Go for it. It's going to give a very different look and feel when all is said and done. All right, let's see what else we have. Bigger pieces that we can work with. That's not what I wanted. Well, there's some more blue. So, all right, what do we have up here? That's kind of fun. And again, the rag edge gives it a little bit more dimensionality. So let's commit to it. Oh, I'm going to need a new glue stick. Fortunately, I have some. And over here, let's get that rag torn edge. That's a nice look. All right, and you're going to go roughly right into there. All right, another piece of this kind of blue. Obviously, we're kind of going blue dominant here, I think, as our background, which is good. I think it's going to work out fine. Let's see what I can do with this here. Maybe just kind of, you know, again, fill in some of the white space, which is really what I want to be able to do with these neutral colors for the most part. And all right, that will fill in a gap for us. And you know what? I'm going to put it in vertically. Right now, all about getting rid of as much white as possible. And we'll figure out how to fill in these other spaces as we go in here. All right, how about this gray? Ooh, and by the way, a slight angle looks cool. Looks cool. So this piece here. Boom. There we go. Covered up that white space beautifully. It's a patch. we put a nice patch in. Let's see. I've got kind of a fairly neutral orange. I've got some yellow. Oh, I've got some green. That's going to probably be a good accent piece. And this is where it starts to be kind of fun because, you know, again, we're starting to play around with what we can do again to get rid of some of the white space that's in here, but also mix some new colors. Yeah, this combination here of the orange with that blue, I think it works really well. So I'm going to come in here and get that put into place. And nice. Nice, nice, nice. We got a white. Sometimes with the white, I like to wait till the last, kind of put that on as a patch. Again, it depends on what the color combinations are. It can make a big difference. Now I have some very bright colors, and I have some oranges, and I have some magentas or fuchsias and things like that. So those are going to be kind of the last colors that we end up putting in because they're going to be really the ones sitting at the top for the most part. Let's. I like this color. I think I might actually try to put something in here, and I'll put this on top of it though. So put that aside for now. And probably if I thought this out, I'd have an easier way to actually see the colors that I have access to in my bins. So, all right, so I think that's going to be a piece that we use in the future. This red might come in handy. Got some pinks which are somewhat neutral. Let's see. I want some things that again don't really stand out. That's the objective. Oh, here we go. Here we go. Here's some treasures from underneath my my pile, which work beautifully. Again, you see how these are really kind of, you know, they have color, but they're not in your face at all. And I'm going to use that to try to take care of a little bit of the real estate that I have down here in front of me. And I also ask myself the question, do I want to go horizontal or do I want to go vertical on some of these? Interesting. Interesting. Yeah, you know what? I think I'll do that. So. And all right. So again, we're covering up as much as we can cover up. A little bit of white poking through right there, but I took care of that. So there we are. Nice. And what about this piece here? I think this piece would go well into this area here, but you know what? It doesn't need to be as big as it is. So I'm going to find my scissors, which I've buried over here. And I'm going to just kind of cut a piece out. Make it a little bit more organic here. Maybe I don't need a rag edge on this one. And let's just see what happens if we kind of drop it in this region right here. Looks good. It covers up a little bit of interesting cut lines there from the scissors. So let's do it. All right. Again, cover up as much white as we can. Beautiful. Beautiful. So we're getting down actually into less white to work with here. And again, I'm still kind of laying out some colors I want to be able to use as kind of my top colors. This vague pink will probably fit right there. All right, and right in there like that. All right, what else do we have? You know this green? I may save that. I might need to get a little something underneath that. Let's see if I can find a few more neutral colors that I can play with here. And I have a couple. Actually, this gray piece could be kind of fun just running vertically right there. And I hope you get a chance to use some of these ideas. Again, I know that you're probably watching me right now, but hopefully at some point you'll say, you know what, I can do this as well. That's really my objective here, is to have you say, I have magazines in my house. I have a pair of scissors. I can sit and watch television and cut out blocks of color and tear things out and see what happens, right? Again, there's nothing wrong with whatever you're putting together, and we'll see how this develops. Who knows? It may get to a point where I just say, oh, I think we missed something. It just didn't work, but hopefully not. Ooh, that's kind of interesting. It's kind of got a texture on it as well. Let's really cover a fair amount of that. Well, I'll contemplate it. Let's see. We have a white piece there. There's some more of that kind of blue background. That might be perfect for what we're doing. Here's another piece of gray. The gray I like, again, because it's really super neutral for what we're doing. And, you know, I might just create a shape that kind of works in this space here. And covers up an awful lot. Or, you know what? Maybe I'll just tear this and say, there we go. That will fit right there. And when I'm working with the center of my piece of art, I also want to make sure that I'm not just slapping something down that I'm going to regret later. I think that's good. And this is going to leave this kind of interesting place for us to really have a highlight piece. So I think that's my empty one. I probably don't need to keep that on my table. Here we go. So now I'm going to come in here and I am going to obscure a lot of everything except this space down here, which I think is going to end up being a brighter color, like that. Yeah. How do you like that? How do you like that? You know what? Let's take care of it. We tried it. It looked good. We said, why not? Again, let me cover up all of the white that's peeking through. All right. All right. So that's leaving a space down here. Again, another bright splotch of color will probably come in handy. Something that's contrasting. Again, black works really well when you get toward the end of these things because it does draw the eye. But I'm not sure if we're ready for that yet. Let's see. You know what? I'm going to take this piece. I'm going to tear it off right about here. But I think if we bring it up here like this, we're covering up the white. Yeah, that takes up a big chunk of the white that's poking through there. Gives us an interesting shaped piece also to flesh this out a little bit more. All right, let's see. Make sure we got it positioned the way we wanted it. And cover up. It's not quite where I wanted it to go, but hey, sometimes these things happen organically and maybe for a reason. Let's get that. All right. Cool. All right, so a couple more things. Let me just look inside my neutrals here. And have some more. Oh, this will work. This will work right there. Getting rid of more of that white space. Okay. So right in there like that. Beauteous. All right. And yeah, we're getting down into kind of the bits and pieces here. Now, do I want to bring this across like that? You know, I'm going to tear the edge here, make it a little bit more of an interesting texture. And I'm going to do the same thing over here, right about there. So as I bring this across, again, it's got a little bit more dimensionality to it as opposed to just straight cut lines. No right answer, but it just it does give us something a little bit more interesting visually. And take this guy and let's put it right there like that. Whoops, big blob of glue. Don't want that. That's not our goal at all. Paper towel. I had it, man. There we go. It's only so much you can fit on one table at a time. It's true. All right. Happy with how this is turning out. Now I'm going to start brightening it up a little bit. I have some places where we can drop some bright splotches of color. And, what does that mean? Well, I've got a piece of orange here that might work out really well right there. Okay, maybe I bring it down over to the blue a little bit. Actually, it looks better down over the blue a little bit. You get that mix of the blue and the orange. These colors go well together. All right, so pow. Nice. Get the glue off my own hands here. All right, I like this yellow. One of the things I'm holding out for is I've got this bright magenta. And by the way, just notice no matter where I put this on our piece right now, it just screams out, doesn't it? And I don't even need to wait for a white space. Just kind of where it is sitting right now, with these, it aligns already with the line that's already here, and it goes through here and up to that blue, and it's almost in the center. I kind of love that, so we're gonna make it happen. Come to me, and you're gonna fit in here. Actually, look further down. Beautiful. You're not gonna not see that. That's kind of what's happening with that color. It commands you to pay attention to it. Now we have this green. We can use some of this green to cover up the white line that's over here. I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna tear this down right about there. But if we have a slight overlap here and run it down there. Kind of cool. Kind of cool. Subtle. Not everything we do has to be in your face. Okay. So right like that. Nice. Oh, that's not nice at all. What the heck was that? That was me being a little rough with this. So it's a thin piece of paper with glue on it, so it's slightly wet. Sometimes they don't want to be roughhoused. All right. Balancing. I'm thinking up here, this is where we start to play around with the pink color that we had. And again, I don't necessarily need to, this yellow is not in here yet, so we'll keep that in there like that. What if I were to come in here like this and just tear this off here? So this piece kind of fits into that one nicely, and the red, oh, I like that. I like that. So all right. A thing of beauty. There we go. All right, that leaves that area right there. Now, do you have this yellow, which I think is going to be helpful to have in somewhere here? But you know what? I mean, it's not going to necessarily close that gap for me, and it doesn't need to. It doesn't need to. I can just simply put it in here as an accent, and maybe I'll put something darker, like a piece of black in there. We'll see how that works. And you are going right there. Beautiful. And all right, so I'm getting to a point where I've got a foundation down. Now, can I drop pieces like this within the foundation? 100%. Right? This is really just a foundation of colors that we can work with. And what works is going to be, as we move things around, we can say, hey, is that going to be good there, or does it work better if I put it over here, or something like that? So we'll play around with various things. Let's finish up some of these gaps to begin with. Again, let me just grab a small piece of black and say, if I were to drop a piece of black right up here, does that do what I want it to do? And with that pink and that yellow, it's not terrible. Did my brain go, yay? Not really. So But sometimes you can just grab a piece that, get some color in there and say, okay, if I were to do that, what would the results be? I think some of this black actually is going to work. I think we're going to need to have a few accent pieces. I do have a piece that's been kind of at the edge of my periphery for a while here. Come on. And that's this orange piece. I have another orange piece here. So if I were to put this orange piece, maybe like that. Ooh, I like that better than the black. It goes nicely with the pink and the yellow. Yeah, I think we found a way to fill that hole. So you are going to go right there. We have covered up that white. All right, so that leaves just this hole down here. And again, we're not overly concerned, but I am thinking I have this piece of red, and this may actually work really, really well. Do I want to keep it squared off like that? Do I want to tear the edges? I don't know. Let's find out. Let's get some texture in here. I don't know. What are my thoughts? What are your thoughts? It's like watching somebody else. You know what? I kind of like that. I like the way that the gray and the red work together. And again, it does what I want it to do. It fills in that gap. So we have found a solution. And that hole is now filled as well. Okay. Come on, glue stick. Don't go running away on me. All right. Oh, we actually have another hole up here, but not a big deal. And you know what? I think I can fix it with a little bit of pink. And how do you do? All right. Now, oftentimes at this point, I'll stand back from this and I'll say, all right, how are we doing? Let's get this, make sure this is. And I'll be honest with you, I like how a lot of this has come together. What I'm noticing is that there are places like down here where it seems rather nebulous, right? Because there's really just a big block of colors in here. And they're fine, they work fine, but there's nothing really interesting about them. So I might want to have something that kind of ties these different pieces together. Maybe something long and narrow that comes down through here. And we can explore what that might be. I still have this piece of red. Not that I'd use it at this size, but it's just the kind of thing that if I create some sort of a shape, can I kind of walk it down? You know what? Let's take the risk here and see if this is going to work for me. I'm going to find my scissors again, which I've buried nicely. But if I were to run this from down here and kind of create a shape that goes like this, what would it look like? Go like that. We'll bend it up like this, and we'll make it a little wider at the top. So again, if I were to come in and utilize it like this, how does that affect this bottom corner? All right, so that's without, and that is with. And I think what I'm seeing is that width definitely works here. Okay, this is a piece that really helps to tie things together and really becomes that top layer of color that really stands out. So again, you can have regrets. You can have regrets later, but in most cases, it's all going to work. It's all going to work. People will look at this and they'll see the sum of the parts and not the parts themselves, right? No, this is my empty glue stick, which is why it's not working so well. So, let's make sure I get this done just a little bit more, I think. It worked. It works. Okay. So that's nice. So that's kind of tied together, and I think this bottom left-hand corner is really It's really working nicely. The upper right-hand corner is kind of dealing from the same kind of who cares. Let's drop a little bit of black in here for some good contrast. And also we're going to punch it with a few more pieces of bright color. I have another piece of yellow here. And the yellow actually might, well, we'll figure out. If I put the yellow up here, will that make a big difference? Now, it certainly does give it more color. Something to think about. And if I have a piece of black that I'm dropping in here again, black is to be used subtly, if that makes sense. It's so powerful at being a tool of color contrast that it really will draw your eye, no matter where you put it. So, you know, we want to make sure that if we're putting it on here, it's not going to be dominating everything around it. And it's still, I think it's just too big as a piece, but you can see just by putting it there, your eye can almost not avoid looking at it. Actually, one of the cool things here, I'm gonna chunk this down. It really melds well with the fuchsia that we have here. And if I were to put a piece of black right here with the fuchsia, what do you think? I think that works. I think that works. Let's get it in there. Again, we have to commit. We can have no no paralysis through analysis when we're creating these things. I'm going to overlap it just a slight bit to really tie them together. And not unhappy. That's a good thing. And the black, like I said, is a good thing to pull this together. You know, I have this dark green. It doesn't need to be black necessarily to pull the pieces together. Let me create some of this a little bit keystone shaped, I guess. And let's see what happens if we pull. Again, I'm not sure what to do with that upper corner just yet. Yeah, there's definitely something else is needed up here. Maybe. Oh, well, it's an interesting color too, but maybe just up here. Something that kind of sticks down. It might be all we need to kind of balance that out. All right. Yeah, again, it's about creating something to look at. It's not just, hey, I have a bunch of colors on a page necessarily. It has a lot to do with when I look at this, what does my brain do? What kind of emotions does it evoke? And, you know, sometimes it's not always utter delight. It's not like, oh my gosh, I've never seen anything more amazing than that. But, you know, when we look at art, there's a certain amount of just, you know, it's like looking at anything else that makes you happy, whether it's, you know, a picture of a beautiful cake or, you know, the smile on the face of a child. There's something that as human beings, we end up having this concept of, you know, just that makes my brain happy for a moment. So I'm going to see this red down here. I like the way it's popping. Kind of like putting together a puzzle, but just create a piece and then figure out where the best place to put it is. All right. And once again, if I come in here like this and just have a little bit of overlay, draw my attention to that. And the red is really good, and the magenta is really good. Do I have any more? I have some more red here. That's like magenta. Oh, you know what? We haven't really delved into the purples. Oh, we have some. We have some. And if I were to put a strip of purple up here, let's give it a try. Let's give it a try. I'm going to just cut some of this purple fuchsia out. And actually, let's put it in there first. And again, it's like kind of like that. Doesn't have to interact with the orange. Should it cover up the line between these two? It doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt. So, and one of the big secrets of success, and any artist will tell you this, is that you have to figure out intuitively or based upon some methodology when to stop. Right? Because at some point we can just keep gluing pieces of paper down forever and have something that's just all stacked up. But it's really about being able to work with the pieces we have and create something that's visually interesting. And as I've mentioned in the past, oftentimes what I'll do with a piece like this is I'll put it up on a wall, and I'll let my brain tell me over time, oh, it'd be really cool if there was something right there. I like this, but I'll tell you, one of the things that I feel is missing is we need a few more anchoring pieces of dark color. I'm going to work with just a couple of these strips of black. And let me cut that out like that. I'm thinking that down here in this corner, this corner needs kind of something to pull it together. Do I want to go horizontal as opposed to vertical? Interesting thought. I could do something like that. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that we put in originally that was kind of running horizontal. A lot of the other pieces we're putting in here are running vertical. I'm going to put this here. One of the things I love is, first of all, ties things together, but also the black and this orange work so well together, don't they? All right, and here's my magenta, still working and hiding out. But here's a fun-shaped piece, just the way it was cut out of the magazine. Is there anything we can do with this? Well, that's nice. And sometimes the answer is no. Sometimes it's just not going to fit where we want it to fit. Although it is kind of fun. It's really fun with the blue behind it, like that. You know what? It's harmless. Let's just say that, well, if we put that there, it may add to it, but I don't think it detracts from the entire piece. And that's kind of where we are right now. As our objective is, what can we do to make sure that we can finish this piece up to enhance it a little bit more without overworking it or making ourselves have regrets. That's what we're trying to avoid. No regrets. Okay, and push that over a little bit. Well, it's still wet. You got a little bit of flexibility. All right. All right. I still need a little bit more dark up here, so I'm going to go back to my black. Do I want to just have black strips? Well, who the heck knows? I'll start with a black strip, and if that doesn't work, try something else. I've got a wrinkle in my paper here, so I'm going to cut the wrinkle part off. Yeah, if I were to come in here and just kind of put that there like that. Don't know. Put that there like that. Well, that covers up the rag edge we have on the pink. But again, if we have regrets on that, it's ready to pull together. Maybe that's not what's needed there. Maybe that's not what's needed. And maybe if we come up here and I put the black next to that magenta and bring it down into the orange, that kind of works too. So, I don't want to overdo it. But I do want to get to a point where I don't feel like there's a section where something is missing. And again, having a dark color up here is going to really help balance things out. When I look at this piece, where's my eye going to go to first, right? It's probably going to go to this magenta block here in the middle, which is fine. But then what's going to happen? Is it going to look here? Is it going to look here? Is it going to look here? Is this spot in here where it just seems like, again, to my eyes, right about in here, something's missing. It needs a little something to kind of fill that out just a tiny bit. Do I want to bring in, something else like a magenta piece that will bring the eye to kind of here and here and here? Maybe. Is there another color that I want to be able to drop in there that's not going to be as bright as magenta? I have, you know what? This might actually serve the purpose. It's a little too big the way I'm kind of thinking about it right now. Let's bring this down a little bit. Yeah, there's just something about this. It's remaining a little too neutral, and I want to bring it down and make it a little bit more interesting. Do I do that? How about this piece here? Yeah, I think that's being overworked right there. Again, the bigger challenge here is just creating something that you like. And if you're able to look at this the way it is right now and say, I think I'm good, then you might just stay with where it is. Can you add to this later? You can. It's yours. Unless somebody buys it off of you and hangs it on their wall, which means they probably already like it, you're in good shape. I'm going to stop. I'm going to stop right here because, again, I don't want to overwork this. I want to get to a point where maybe if I look at this for a few days, I'll come back and say, oh, I know exactly what should go in here. But I'm liking this section here to draw my attention and the way my eye is kind of filling in these different bright places. And there's plenty to look at here. And this is the kind of piece of work that you could put up on a wall, and you could look at this for months and start seeing different things each time you look at it, right? As the pieces come together. So anyway, as a proof of concept, if nothing else, I like how this is really turned out. I may tweak it a little bit in the next little bit. We'll see as I stare at it. But I wanted to just share with you the process, if nothing else, of going and building out a palette of colors. Go find the old magazines, grab a pair of scissors, grab your favorite audiobook, turn on the TV, cut out colors, create these envelopes or a collection so you have your spectrum to work with, and then, put them into motion. Do something with them that will allow you to create something that at the end of the day, this was just frankly garbage once upon a time. We could have just thrown these all away and said, here, let's move on. Instead, we were able to take the color and recombine it into something that is really kind of fun and is able to grab our attention and our imagination. And that's what we're trying to do. Anyway, thank you so much for your time today. As always, I really love being able to bring these 1-hour masterpieces to you, and I'd love to see your work. So if you're creating any of the things that we're doing with these exercises, please feel free to send me a picture of your work. You can send it to me at spider@spectivastudios.com. And I'd love to share it in a future episode of Mixed Media Masters and show other people what you've been working on as well. Thank you again for your time and attention. Really appreciate it. And I'll talk to you soon.